Hello and welcome to Ships Nerds Anonymous podcast with me, DK. As your host for Titanic Week, I will narrate a series of episodes focused on the RMS Carpathia, a ship famously known for rescuing the survivors of the Titanic disaster. From April 11th to April 18th, I will break down the events that took place on board the Carpathia, share profiles of the ship's crew and passengers, read testimonies, and more. It was on this day, on April 13, 1912, as the Carpathia entered the northwest Gulf Stream. Passengers noticed a temperature difference as the cold began to feel a bit warmer. Just 2 days before, it had been snowing in New York City. Many of the Carpathia's passengers reported that the voyage had been pleasant despite the continued bitter cold. The crew, however, was accustomed to these chilly conditions. One notable member was the ship's wireless operator, Harold Cottam. At 21 years old, Cottam was employed by the Marconi company as the second wireless operator, making him the sole operator on board the Carpathia. Cottam had served as the Carpathia's wireless operator since either February 10th or the 11th of 1911. After 14 months aboard, he knew the ins and outs of the ship's Marconi apparatus, carrying out the responsibility of being the only wireless operator. Cottam studied at the British College of Telegraphy and began working for the Marconi Company in 1908. Before 1912, he worked as a telegraphist in a post office and served on various ocean liners, including the Canadian Pacific Railway's RMS Empress of Ireland. Cottam had a significant responsibility as the sole operator on board, as he was tasked with listening for and sending wireless messages. As part of his training, he studied Morse code. This is an international system that uses dots, dashes, and spaces to represent letters of the alphabet. This communication method involves special radio equipment designed to send and receive messages. Along with the prior training, operators carried a printed copy of the process verbal, which means written report. This document required operators to record events, especially in emergencies. However, Cottam noted that he did not keep a regular record of emergencies during his time on the Carpathia, which would have been crucial. Nevertheless, he diligently performed his duties of receiving and sending traffic, spending up to 17 hours a day at the wireless machine. When information came through, he would relay it to the bridge and then to the ship's second officer, James Bissett, who would post the messages in the ship's chart room. This communication was frequent, especially since Cottam receives ice reports from the Cunard Line's offices in New York and on other vessels. Cottam was one of the many operators who underwent training to transmit messages using electromagnetic waves represented by Morse code signals. The equipment, developed by Irish-Italian wireless pioneer Guglielmo Marconi, was revolutionary in transmitting signals over long distances via radio waves. This technology was utilized for sending distress messages, reporting arrivals, and communicating with shore stations such as Cape Race. The radio frequency for this equipment operated around 500 kHz, allowing messages at sea to travel a distance exceeding 200 miles. This was a groundbreaking advancement in communication technology, and Cottam was among the many operators who gained experience in this field. For over 15 years, numerous ships had wireless equipment for long-distance communications regarding distress signals. Notable instances include the SS East Goodwin lightship, which sent the first wireless distress signal on behalf of the merchant vessel Elbe in 1899 after it ran aground on Goodwin Sands, and the White Star liner the RMS Republic, which sent out the first CQD distress signal in 1909 after colliding with the SS Florida. By 1912, Marconi wireless equipment had become a standard feature on ocean liners and merchant ships, including the Carpathia. However, there was one drawback to having a Marconi wireless machine and being the operator. As mentioned earlier, Cottam was the only operator on the Carpathia. Why was that the case? Well, the answer is pretty simple though. It was related to the size of the vessel and the volume of messages being sent and received. Additionally, ships typically had 1 or 2 operators on board, depending on the expected passenger traffic and messaging needs. While one operator's shift was limited to a maximum of 8 to 10 hours a day, ships with multiple operators could spread the workload across different shifts. Moreover, earlier Marconi wireless equipment was not reliable, necessitating the operators undergo extensive training, as working with the equipment could be challenging. At that time, there was no regulations requiring radios to be manned 24 hours a day. Marconi wireless was primarily seen as a means for passengers to send messages rather than a crucial tool for sharing critical navigational information in 1912. While the Carpathia was sailing in the North Atlantic, Cottam communicated with operators from other ships in the same area. This included the John Durn from the Armstrong Whitworth and Company's SS Mount Temple, Cyril Evans from the Leyland Line's SS Californian, and Ernest James Moore and Alec Begot from the White Star Line's RMS Olympic. He also had a strong friendship with Jack Phillips and Harold Bride from the RMS Titanic, as they had known each other for many years. Their friendship would play an essential role in the events that were about to unfold. In tomorrow's event, we will explore the Carpathia's final day at sea before receiving a horrifying distress call.